Inspirational interlude. Mónica Diaz, welcome back to HACR and welcome to the stage.
Gracias, Jack. Buenos días. Good morning, Miami. How are you enjoying your second day so far? Good? Okay. What an interesting topic, the conversation between Ana and Jai about how to navigate the corporate culture. And so because this is the space in between, remember, that's the interlude, let's talk a little bit more about those interesting topics. I was delighted to hear the questions that you had for Ana, because that is very much the reality that we all face, including myself. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that with some storytelling, okay? So first of all, I think that we can summarize the topic of navigating corporate culture with a single statement, a question that we all need to ask ourselves, and it's fundamental. And that question is, how much or how little do we want to adapt to succeed versus how much do we want to disrupt to transform the work environments in which we're in? That is the question. And that is your question, and that is my question. And it is a very personal one. How much do you want to adapt to succeed versus what you want to transform to disrupt? Let me tell you a story. Over 20 years ago, I took a 4-hour flight from Puerto Rico to New Jersey. It was my first corporate relocation. And my mom said, "Nena, no te preocupes. Don't worry, mija. You're gonna love it." You see, my mother has lived for 60 plus years in Puerto Rico, but she is a native New Yorker, or so she says, because that's where she grew up. So you can, ¿cómo es que ella dice? You can take New York, the girl out of New York, but you cannot take New York out of the girl. That's what she says. So she said, "Mijita, no te preocupes, you're gonna love it." For her, the fact that I was moving to New Jersey meant that I was going to experience firsthand what it was to live in the land of opportunity. So she was very happy for me. So her words kept ringing in my head in that 4-hour flight. And I believed my mother. So I was very confident. I was relocating with the same company that I had been working for several years, so no problem there. I knew the boss that I was going to work with because we have worked together before. I knew some of my peers. I was familiar with the role. I'm bilingual. No problem. And so I thought. But interestingly enough, I was just going to do my job, do my work. And the moment I stepped into the office, they gave me this 3-ring binder. You know, we used to use 3-ring binders, the big ones. Remember those? Ay, yo estoy vieja, la única que se acuerda soy yo. So, but those 3-ring binders existed. And inside that 3-ring binder, they had a brochure on the left-hand side. I will never forget. Hispanic ERG. Okay. So I am Hispanic. I am Latina. And you know, not for nothing, I'm familiar with the term, but I had not used that term before to describe myself or self-identify myself at work. I was only a puertorriqueña doing work in Puerto Rico, en la isla, and I was just doing my job. But that's okay. I said, okay. I decided to get curious. I didn't grow up with that nomenclature to describe my identity. But that 4-hour flight gave me something that I was not expecting, that label. I didn't put my label on that myself. It was given to me on a 3-ring binder. That was quite significant. But that's okay. I decided to get curious about that term and what it meant for me. So I went into one of my first meetings at corporate, at the headquarters, and I started noticing certain things. First, I went into a room, a conference room, and I got there early because, you know, I'm a note-taker, as I told you yesterday, and wanted to get early and all that, to get my libretita all set up. And I started seeing people come in. They looked a little bit different to me. I was not different. They looked different. And they looked different because they looked like very somber, like the same, and a little bit sad, if you may. That's how it looked to me. They were all dressed in strict gray, black, or dark brown. And I was wearing turquoise. Tú sabes, Caribbean fish. So I said, like, okay, that's clearly different, but that's okay, no problem at all. The meeting started. Or no, there were some jokes, you know, like where people were waiting for the conversation to start, so people were cracking some jokes. And I started noticing the second thing, aside from my jacket that day, my laughter. I was loud. People were laughing, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. My laughter was way louder than the rest of the crowd. I kid you not. I could not make this story. It just really happened. The meeting started. And then I said, like, okay, great. And people were talking, you know, interacting. And I did this thing, this Catholic church school habit that I learned since I was young. It's like, I want to talk. So I raised my hand. Who does that? In a conference room? Nobody. I did that. I didn't have any chance of anybody saying, do you want to say something? That was not happening in corporate America, not in headquarters. But I did that, and it was my natural tendency to do that. And then I figured out, after I left that meeting, that something was off. I was not able to interject my ideas as I used to. This was not my first corporate gig. I knew how to do my job. But I was clearly facing certain challenges because I was just kind of relocating to a different place. That's okay. When you go to Rome, do as Romans do, or so they say. So I started learning what is it that would work best for me. And I started learning very, very quickly that I probably needed to adapt. As Fernando Rosario and Ana were talking about, we can all grow, we can all adapt. Okay? This is kind of how we evolve. It's perfectly fine to change. But how much you change without losing yourself in the process? Because that's where you lose your authenticity, right? As Ana was saying, don't lose that. But how do you go about that? How do you make sure that you don't lose yourself in the process? This is what I found. My Latina awakening, as I call it in that meeting, was a moment of truth. That moment of truth meant that I had to make certain choices and certain decisions to make sure that I was not losing myself in the process. Yes, I could, you know, like not wear turquoise in February. I could potentially sit on my hands, which I did a few times, not to let my hands speak for themselves. But that didn't feel that comfortable. So I had to tone down when I did it and when I chose not to do it. But it was my choice. It's not that, oh, I can't do it, you know, like, no. I said, I'm going to decide not to do that in a board meeting, but on stage, I'm going to absolutely do it because that's me. And if I had to tone it down, this is what I'll do. I'll use my hands here because I cannot not speak with my hands. It's my way of communicating. And by the way, Italians do it too, okay? But I learned how to manage what I wanted to do, so my hands were not on my face all the time. That was my adaptation. But the fact that I had to spend time thinking about these things could have been frustrating. I decided that I would make it amusing. So I decided to have a positive tone to it. That's the choice. Either you get angry or you get even. And I decided to get even. Those were the choices that we made, that we all make. And I encourage you to make those choices very intentionally because you have to live with them. One intentional choice that I made was when people talked about the fact that they asked me, but where is your accent from? I said, like, do I have an accent? I thought they had an accent. Who knew? I never realized that I had an accent. But the accent meant that I could tone it down, take some accent reduction lessons, that they were quite popular at that time. But I decided I wouldn't do that. That was not a trade-off that I would make for two reasons. Number one, because the way I learned how to pronounce my name is Mónica Diaz, not Monica Diaz. And because Spanish is the language in which I pray, and I would not give that away. It was too hard. I still wanted to recognize my language in my prayer and when I speak. So I said, no, no accent reduction lessons from me. Although a leader suggested that I should do that. That was a choice. Every choice has consequences. I decided it was my choice to deal with that one. And I'm perfectly happy with it. Because there's a very different thing between those three words, the 3 A words, which is assimilation, acculturation, and affirmation. And that is the question. Which are the decisions that you want to make? Assimilation is when you say, I want to pass. I want to be like somebody else. I don't necessarily want to show off or, like differentiate myself as a Latino, as a Hispanic. That's your choice, that's fine. It's your choice, it's your life. And people who make those choices should not be criticized. Those are particular circumstances that dictate why people make those choices. When you kind of decide that you do not want to, portray yourself or align yourself with the culture that you come from. That's assimilation. Acculturation is something quite different. It's when you decide to blend the two, or the three, if you're multiracial, multi-ethnicity. You decide that you're going to find your own space, and you're going to combine wearing a red dress on stage today and deciding that you're going to speak English without an accent, which is not my decision. But it could be yours. It could be yours. That's acculturation. How do you blend it? And the third one is affirmation. Affirmations are declarations. What are the things that you're going to decide that you're going to show, not only adapt, but you're going to visually show to others to make sure that they know that you're acculturated, but there's something there that you want to make known, right? For example, an affirmation is on the paperback copy of my book. You will notice that my name has accents. Mónica Diaz, con acento. I didn't do it on the hardcover, I don't know, because this, Ingram Spark, I don't know, they couldn't figure it out. But for the paperback, absolutely. I want my name to have my acentos. That's an affirmation. I am telling you something with that. Those are the choices that we can make, that you can make. It's in your power to be intentional about the choices that you make. Get feedback from people, but decide how you're going to use it so you can still recognize yourself. Because you should not need to forget who you are in the process of being successful at corporate. So, it's your choice. Make it intentional. How much do you want to adapt to succeed versus how much do you want to transform to disrupt? Thank you so much.